Fellow travelers, friends dreaming of retiring in Thailand, of finding peace, sunshine, and a second chance at love, listen carefully. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't a story about love. It's a story about betrayal. About a paradise that turned into hell, and a smile that destroyed everything. Soft pause, thunder grows louder. His name was Jordan Miller. A 61-year-old retired engineer from Australia who came to Chiang Mai to heal his heart, to start over, to live the dream we all think we want, a quiet life, under golden skies, beside a woman who loves us for who we are. And for a while, it worked. He met Pitya, sweet, gentle, the kind of Thai woman every man swears is different. She called him P. Jordan, made him laugh again, made him believe that love could still be pure. Until the morning he opened his bedroom door, and found her in his bed, with his own brother. SFX, silence, one beat of shock, then soft heartbeat sound. That moment ended everything. His love, his peace, his life as he knew it. And what came next wasn't just heartbreak. It was the slow, merciless unraveling of a man who trusted too deeply. Music swells, deep cinematic tension. Fellow travelers, this isn't just another story about a bar girl, or a scammer, or a lost pension. This is a real story of how love can blind even the wisest man, and how Thailand, the land of smiles, can smile while it destroys you. So before we dive in, do me one favor. Backhand index pointing right hit like, so this warning reaches more people. Backhand index pointing right subscribe, and stay with me till the end. Because what you're about to hear could save your money, your sanity, and maybe your soul. Before Thailand, Jordan Miller lived what most men would call a good life. He was 61, retired early after 35 years as a civil engineer in Perth, Australia. 2 grown children, both busy with their own families. A quiet house. A paid-off mortgage. Enough savings to last 3 lifetimes. But the truth? He was miserable. After his wife, Margaret, passed away from breast cancer, Jordan's world shrank. His mornings became predictable, a walk around the block, the same breakfast at the same corner cafe, evenings in front of the television, alone. The house echoed with silence, a silence that no amount of wine or music could fill. He had spent his entire adult life building things, bridges, towers, roads, but now there was nothing left to build. No purpose. No laughter. No warmth. His daughter, Emily, tried to help. "Dad, you should travel. You always loved Asia. You need a change of scenery, something to keep you alive." She meant well. But she didn't know that for men like Jordan, grief turns into loneliness, and loneliness turns into searching. That's how Thailand entered the picture. At first, it was just an idea. A few YouTube videos about retiring cheap in paradise. Some travel vlogs showing beaches, temples, street food, and smiling faces. And for the first time in years, Jordan felt something stir inside him again. Hope. He started reading forums. Expats in Thailand. Living in Chiang Mai. Life after 60 in Asia. Most stories were positive. Men like him, divorced, widowed, tired of Western coldness, writing about how Thailand gave them a second life. A country where people smiled at you. Where food cost $2 a meal. Where you could rent a beautiful apartment for the price of a studio back home. He sold his car, packed his life into 2 suitcases, and boarded a one-way flight to Bangkok. No plan. No expectations. Just a burning need to feel something again. The moment he stepped out of Suvarnabhumi Airport, the heat hit him like a wave. Thick, humid, alive. The smell of lemongrass, grilled meat, and exhaust fumes mixed in the air. Taxi drivers calling out, "Where you go, sir?" And somewhere behind it all, music, laughter, life. Jordan smiled for the first time in months. Bangkok was chaos, but it was beautiful chaos. Neon lights, golden temples, markets that never slept. He wandered through Khao San Road, through the riverside night markets, and for the first time since Margaret's death, he didn't feel invisible. Strangers talked to him. Shop owners called him handsome. Young women smiled as they passed. And Jordan, naive but sincere, believed those smiles were genuine. After a month of traveling through Bangkok and Pattaya, he settled in Chiang Mai, a slower, gentler city surrounded by mountains and temples. He rented a small villa near Nimmenhamen Road. The air smelled of coffee and rain. There were monks walking in the mornings, and digital nomads working in quiet cafes. For Jordan, it felt perfect. Peaceful. Safe. The kind of place where he could heal. He began a routine. Morning walks to the market. Lunch at the same noodle stall. Evening drinks at a quiet jazz bar where a live band played English songs from the 80s. And that's where he first heard about her. Pitya. A friend from the expat group mentioned a sweet local girl who worked at a nearby cafe. She's different, mate. Not like the bar girls. Educated, speaks good English. Kind soul. Jordan wasn't looking for love, at least that's what he told himself. But loneliness has its own way of convincing a man that he deserves one more chance. He started visiting the cafe. At first, just for coffee. Then for conversation. Then for her smile. Looking back, Jordan would later say this. It wasn't love at first sight. It was something softer. Something that felt like healing. He didn't know it then, but that quiet cafe on the corner of Suthep Road was where his second life began, and ended. Because that's where Pitya first saw him too. And from the moment their eyes met across the counter, she already knew what kind of man he was. Lonely. Kind. And ready to believe in love again. For the first few months, Jordan thought Thailand was a dream come true. The air felt lighter. The people seemed kinder. Even the smallest things, the scent of jasmine in temple courtyards, the rhythmic buzz of tuk-tuks, the soft chanting of monks at dawn, felt like therapy for a broken man. He told his daughter over a video call. I think I finally found peace here. And she smiled through the screen, relieved that her father was smiling again. He joined a small expat circle, mostly retirees, digital nomads, and a few long-term travelers. They gathered at cafes and jazz bars, talking about visas, housing prices, and Thai cooking classes. Most of them had one thing in common. They were running from something. Failed marriages. Empty bank accounts. Midlife crises. Thailand had become their reset button. Jordan loved how the country seemed to reward simplicity. A bowl of noodles for 40 baht. A haircut for the price of a cup of coffee. Smiles that didn't feel rushed or transactional. He loved walking through the night markets, the smell of grilled chicken and chili filling the air, the hum of bargaining, the laughter of children running between food stalls. There were temples around every corner, each one glowing gold at sunset. Monks in orange robes moving silently through the streets. And every now and then, an old Thai woman would place a flower garland in his hands and whisper, "Good luck, Farong." He believed her. For the first time in years, Jordan felt seen. He began to pick up small Thai phrases. Sawasti krub. Kop kun krub. And when the locals giggled at his accent, he laughed along. He wasn't just a tourist anymore. He was becoming part of something. In Australia, people looked through him. Here, they looked at him. That difference felt like love. And maybe that's why, when Pitya entered his life, he was already halfway in love, with the country, the culture, the illusion of peace. He just didn't realize that Thailand's beauty had a price tag, and that sometimes, the currency wasn't money but trust. It was a quiet Thursday morning when Jordan first spoke to her. He walked into Pitya's cafe, a small shop tucked between a tailor and a spa. The smell of coffee and fresh pastries filled the air, soft Thai pop music playing in the background. She was behind the counter, arranging flowers in a vase. Slim, graceful, with long dark hair tied into a ponytail and a white blouse that made her look elegant yet simple. When she looked up and smiled, something inside Jordan's chest shifted. "Good morning, sir," she said in careful English. "Your first time here?" "Yeah," he replied, smiling back. "But not my last, I think." She laughed. A small, shy laugh. That was how it began. A cup of coffee. A few words exchanged. And a spark that would burn his life down. Over the next weeks, Jordan became a regular. He brought her small gifts, a box of chocolates, a keychain from Australia, sometimes just a flower from the market. They talked about simple things, Thai food, music, her family in the countryside. She told him she had never dated a foreigner before. That she dreamed of opening her own cafe one day. That she loved how he listened. Her voice was soft, her eyes full of warmth. And when she said, You have kind eyes, Jordan. He felt something he hadn't felt in years, alive. At night, when he walked home through the lantern-lit streets, he couldn't stop smiling. He didn't tell anyone about her at first. It felt too fragile, too pure. But the truth was, he had already started picturing a future. A quiet home in the mountains. Lazy mornings with coffee and her laughter. A new life, a new purpose. He thought he had found love. But what he really found was a mirror. Thailand had reflected everything he wanted to see: youth, affection, belonging. But mirrors can't love you back. Still, at that time, Jordan didn't know that. To him, Pitya was an angel. To her, Jordan was an opportunity. And as the monsoon season rolled into Chiang Mai, their story, one that began with sunlight and jasmine, was about to darken into a storm. When people talk about romance scams, they imagine sleazy bars in Pattaya or fake profiles on dating apps. But Jordan's story didn't start that way. It started in daylight, with coffee, kindness, and a girl who seemed too genuine to doubt. Her name was Pitya Chonsam, 34 years old. Born in a small town outside Chiang Mai. She told him her mother was sick, her father gone, and she'd moved to Chiang Mai to chase independence. She didn't dress like the women he saw in tourist bars. No heavy makeup, no loud laughter. She wore simple dresses, spoke softly, and never asked for anything. She was everything he wanted to believe about Thai women: gentle, loyal, full of heart. For weeks, their relationship grew like a quiet sunrise. They'd sit together in her cafe after closing hours, talking about life. Sometimes she'd bring him mango sticky rice, saying, "This is my favorite. Sweet and soft, like Thai love." And he'd laugh, not realizing she was slowly wrapping herself around his emotions. She told him about her dreams, wanting to open a second cafe, to take care of her mother in Chiang Mai. She spoke about karma, about wanting a good man, about how Western men respected women better. Every word seemed to pull Jordan deeper into her orbit. He told her things he hadn't told anyone. About Margaret's death. About how he still kept her wedding ring in a drawer. About how his son barely spoke to him anymore. Pitya listened, eyes wide, hand gently resting over his. "You're not alone anymore, Jordan. You have me now." That line, "You have me now," echoed in his head for days. Their first kiss happened under the soft rain of Chiang Mai's monsoon. Jordan was walking her home one night when the clouds broke open. They ran under an umbrella, laughing, soaked to the skin. When they reached her apartment gate, she turned to him, cheeks glistening with rain, and whispered, "You're my lucky man." That moment, that look, made him forget his age, his past, his doubts. For the first time in years, he felt alive. Soon, they were inseparable. Mornings together, nights together. She introduced him to her cousin, a young man named Niran, who, later, Jordan would discover wasn't her cousin at all. But at the time, he believed everything. Pitya started calling him P. Jordan, older brother, though she used it affectionately, like darling. She'd make him Thai breakfast, rice porridge with ginger and egg, and say, "You're too skinny. I take care of you." Jordan began paying for groceries, small home repairs, and cafe bills without thinking. It wasn't about money. It was about care. "I love you, Jordan." He felt needed again. When his expat friends warned him to be careful, he smiled and said, "Not every Thai woman's a scammer. You just need to find the right one." He truly believed that. After 3 months, she said the words every lonely man dreams of hearing. He froze. It felt too soon, too unreal, but her eyes shimmered with sincerity. She held his face in her hands and whispered, "I don't care about your money or your age. You're kind. You're safe." And that was his undoing. Because that's what every broken man in Thailand is really looking for. Not beauty, not youth, but safety. Someone to hold the loneliness away, even for a while. They began spending weekends at a small resort outside Chiang Mai, surrounded by rice fields. She'd hold his arm during sunsets, take pictures of their meals, and post them with captions like, "My future husband Redheart." He laughed, flattered, even shy. His life suddenly had color again. Gold temples, red sunsets, her laughter under the palm trees. He even started talking about marriage. And when she said, Maybe one day, when my mother is well, he thought she was being selfless. But in truth, she was waiting for the right time, to make him fall deep enough that he couldn't escape. Looking back, Jordan said, "The scariest part wasn't how she lied. It's how she made me believe she didn't need to. She never asked for money. Not yet. She just made him offer. And in Thailand, that's how it begins, not with demand, but with devotion." By the 6th month, Jordan had given her a key to his villa. She moved in slowly, one toothbrush, one suitcase, one smile at a time. His neighbors started calling her Kun Mei, the lady of the house. And every time he saw her waiting at the gate when he came home, hair blowing softly in the evening breeze, he thought to himself, maybe this is it. Maybe I finally got my second chance. But what Jordan didn't know was that his second chance was already being planned as his final downfall. Because in the shadows of that quiet Chiang Mai home, someone else had entered the picture. Someone who knew Jordan better than anyone. His own brother. The first thing everyone noticed about Jordan after Pitya moved in was how alive he seemed again. He smiled more, dressed better, even started jogging in the mornings. He wasn't just living in Thailand anymore. He was thriving, and it all revolved around her. Pitya had this way of making him feel seen. Every morning, she'd greet him with coffee and a gentle kiss on the cheek. Every evening, she'd cook his favorite dish, massaman curry, just the way he liked it, and whisper, "You work hard all your life. Now I take care of you, okay?" For a man who'd spent years feeling invisible, those words were intoxicating. She began to weave herself into every corner of his life. His phone wallpaper became a selfie of her smiling under cherry blossoms. His calendar filled with notes in her handwriting, doctor appointment, rent due, anniversary dinner. It wasn't that she controlled him, she guided him, softly, almost like a caretaker. He didn't see it as manipulation. He saw it as love. Even his friends noticed the change. One of them, Brian, an older expat who had lived in Thailand for 15 years, tried to warn him. "Mate, I've seen this before. The sweet ones are the dangerous ones. They know how to play the long game." But Jordan laughed it off. "She's not like that, Brian. She doesn't even ask for money." And that was true. She didn't. At least, not directly. The first time she introduced him to her family was the night Jordan thought he'd found real belonging. They drove 3 hours north to Chiang Mai, where a modest wooden house stood between rice paddies and banana trees. Her mother greeted him with warmth, bowing slightly, saying, "You make my daughter happy. You are a good man." Dinner was simple but full of laughter. Sticky rice, grilled fish, papaya salad. The family toasted with cheap Thai whiskey and thanked him for coming. Jordan felt something stir in his chest, something he hadn't felt since his wife died. Family. Later that night, as the crickets sang outside, Pitya whispered, "My mother like you. She say you have soft heart." He smiled in the dark. He didn't know that mother was actually Pitya's aunt, paid 1,000 baht to play the role for the evening. A few weeks later, she began sharing personal stories. How her father had gambled and left them. How she worked in a factory as a teenager to support her mother. How she dreamed of a simple, honest life. Every story made Jordan love her more. He saw himself in her, a survivor, someone who had suffered but still believed in goodness. She even started attending English classes, saying she wanted to speak perfect for you. He paid for the lessons without hesitation. He wanted her to have everything. They began planning small trips together, to Doi Inthanon, Pai, and the beaches of Hua Hin. Every photo she posted online had the same caption, "My forever man Redheart." His friends rolled their eyes, but Jordan was blind to irony. To him, it was proof of loyalty. He started thinking about buying a small piece of land, maybe even building a home. When he mentioned it, she smiled shyly and said, "In Thailand, land must in Thai name. But don't worry. I can hold for you." Same, right? He trusted her completely. She wasn't just his girlfriend. She was his translator, his guide, his partner. And in quiet moments, when she laid her head on his chest and whispered, "You make me feel safe, P. Jordan," he believed her. But behind that soft voice and loving gestures, something darker was forming. Because the more he trusted her, the more power she had. She had access to his passwords, his accounts, his documents. When he flew back to Australia for a month to renew his visa, she stayed behind to take care of the house. When he returned, everything was spotless. She had cooked his favorite meal, hung fresh curtains, and placed a photo of them by the bed. It was perfect, too perfect. Jordan thought she was proving her devotion. But in truth, she was proving her control. Sometimes she'd test him, disappearing for a night, claiming she had to visit her mother. When he called and asked where she was, she'd say softly, "You don't trust me." And just like that, he'd be the one apologizing. That's how manipulation works. Not through shouting or demands, but through emotional silence, the kind that makes you question your own doubts. Pitya had built a perfect illusion. She wasn't taking his money, she was taking his mind. By the time Jordan realized how deep he'd fallen, she was already calling him husband. And when Darren, his younger brother, came to visit a few months later, she would use that very trust to destroy him completely. It started small, so small that even Jordan didn't realize it was a request. It was just another lazy afternoon in Chiang Mai. Rain tapping softly on the windows, Pitya lying beside him on the couch, her head resting against his shoulder. They were watching an old Thai soap opera, the kind filled with love triangles and crying heroines, when she sighed and said, "Sometimes I wish I could help my mother more." Jordan looked at her. "She's sick again." She nodded. "The medicine, too expensive. Hospital far from Chiang Mai. But it's okay. I will manage." Then she smiled, that kind of smile that hides pain just enough to break your heart. He didn't hesitate. "How much?" No, she said, shaking her head. "I not ask you. I just talk. You already do too much." He insisted. She resisted. He insisted harder. And that's how it began, the dance of manipulation. A few hours later, he transferred 15,000 baht, about 600 Australian dollars, to her account. She cried, hugged him tightly, and whispered, "You are my angel. I pay you back when I can." Of course, he told her not to. He didn't see it as giving. He saw it as caring. After that, small requests came naturally. Her motorbike broke down. Her phone stopped working. Her cafe supplier demanded early payment. Each time, she hesitated to ask, then accepted with teary eyes and words like, "I don't want your money, I just want your heart." It made Jordan feel needed again, heroic, even. Every time he helped, he wasn't just paying bills. He was buying belonging. He told himself this was what love looked like, two people helping each other. And she knew that's exactly how he would think. Then came the night she introduced the idea that would change everything. They were sitting at the riverside, eating grilled fish and watching lanterns float into the night sky. She leaned close, voice soft and wistful. "You know, I always dreamed to open second cafe. Small one, near Niman. Coffee, cake, maybe art inside. Foreigners love that." Jordan smiled. "You could do that, you know. You're talented." She shrugged. "Maybe. But need start money. I save little, but not enough. I not want to ask bank. Too scary." He thought about it. It didn't sound like a scam, it sounded like a dream. So, a week later, he offered. "How much would you need to start?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Maybe 300,000 baht. But I cannot take from you. People say I use you." That line, "People say I use you." It was the perfect hook. Because it made him want to prove them wrong. "I trust you, Pitya," he said, smiling. "We'll make it together. I'll help with half." Her eyes filled with tears. She threw her arms around him. "You believe in me. No one ever believed in me before." Jordan didn't realize that in that single act, he had crossed an invisible line, from love to leverage. The following month, the new cafe project began. She took photos of the empty shop space, sketches of interior designs, invoices from suppliers. Everything looked legitimate. Jordan transferred another 100,000 baht. Weeks passed. No cafe opened. She said the landlord changed his mind, that permits were delayed, that the government was slow. He believed her. Because she still came home every night. Still cooked his meals. Still held his hand. How could that be fake? Then came her most brilliant move. One night, she left her phone unlocked beside him. A message popped up, in Thai. He couldn't read it, but he saw emojis of crying faces and hearts. When she came back, she noticed his glance and looked hurt. "You think I cheat," she said softly. "Jordan, I love you. You my family. I only talk with my cousin about cafe stress." And just like that, he apologized. The truth was, she wasn't lying about that message. It was about the cafe. But the cousin she was texting wasn't a relative. It was another man, the supplier she was seeing behind Jordan's back. He was part of the con. Still, Jordan was blind to it all. When he looked at her, he saw only the woman who'd healed his grief. He didn't see the calculations behind her eyes, the careful emotional engineering that made every gesture look like love. The cafe dream faded away quietly. She said she was too tired to try again. He told her not to worry. But by then, she had access to his bank account. She knew his PIN. She even knew the password to his Australian pension portal. It was no longer just love. It was possession. And when his brother Darren called to say he was coming to Thailand to visit, Jordan couldn't wait to introduce him to the woman he believed was his soulmate. He had no idea that this visit would be the beginning of his destruction, and that Pitya, the woman he trusted most, would soon use his own blood to betray him. When Darren arrived in Chiang Mai, it was supposed to be a happy reunion. Jordan hadn't seen his younger brother in almost 6 years. Darren had recently gone through a messy divorce in Melbourne and wanted a short break, a place to breathe, maybe rediscover himself. "Come to Thailand," Jordan said on the phone. "You'll love it here. It's peaceful. And I want you to meet someone." He meant her. Pitya. From the moment Darren met her, there was tension, invisible, quiet, but real. Pitya was radiant that night, dressed in a simple yellow dress, greeting Darren with a Y and a soft, polite smile. "Welcome, younger brother," she said. Jordan laughed proudly, placing his arm around her waist. "See? She's perfect. Told you Thailand's been good to me." Darren smiled, but his eyes lingered a second too long. And in that second, something shifted, a spark of curiosity, envy, maybe even desire. The three of them began spending time together. Trips to Doi Suthep, dinner by the Ping River, weekend drives to Pai. To Jordan, it was family harmony. To Darren, it was something else. Fascination. To Pitya, it was opportunity. She started playing the role of the ideal partner, caring for both brothers, cooking for them, laughing at their jokes. But under the surface, her mind was working. Because now she saw two men with money. One in love, one vulnerable. And both willing to trust her. Around that time, Pitya began talking about a new business opportunity. She said a friend had offered her the chance to invest in a small resort project near Chiang Mai, where tourists could stay among rice fields, ecotourism, she called it. She said she wanted Jordan to be her partner, equal partner. "We start small," she said one night, tracing her finger over his arm. "Your experience in building, my heart in service. Together we make something good for future." Jordan hesitated at first. But the idea of creating something tangible, something lasting, made him feel useful again. He missed the feeling of building. So he agreed. She handled all the paperwork, or so he thought. The documents were fake. The land didn't exist. The business partner was her secret boyfriend, who played the role of a real estate agent. Jordan transferred the first 500,000 baht, around 15,000 Australian dollars. He even told Darren proudly, "We're building a future here. You should see how she's changed my life." Darren smiled faintly. "She's something, all right." But soon, the requests grew heavier. Permit fees, taxes, land inspection costs. Every month, something new came up. When Jordan expressed doubt, she'd look heartbroken. "You think I lie? After all we build together." Her voice would tremble, her eyes fill with tears. "Maybe I stop project. I don't want you to be sad." And every time he folded, he'd apologize. He'd transfer the money. It wasn't about greed anymore, it was about guilt. She had learned his psychology perfectly. She didn't need to ask anymore. All she needed to do was hurt. Meanwhile, Darren started staying longer than planned. He said he loved Thailand, the freedom, the food, the warmth. But in truth, he was staying for her. Jordan didn't see it. He thought they were bonding as family. One night, he even caught them sitting together on the porch, talking softly in Thai. When he asked what they were laughing about, she said, "He learning language. I teach him." He believed it. Because that's what love does. It blinds you to the obvious. As months passed, the money drained faster than Jordan could track. His savings dipped below $100,000, something that had never happened in his life. He mentioned it once, half-jokingly. "You're making me poor, Pitya." She laughed, kissed him, and said, "Then I take care of you when you old." He smiled. He didn't realize she meant it literally. By the end of that year, Jordan's entire financial life was entangled with hers. His name was on nothing. The property, the business, the accounts, all in her name, for convenience. He even started helping her brother Niran get a job at a local cafe, unaware that Niran was using his identity to open new bank accounts under his name. It wasn't just theft. It was a takeover. But the most painful part wasn't the money. It was what came next. Because love wasn't the only thing Pitya was sharing. She started disappearing again, weekend trips to Chiang Mai for family. But this time, she came back with new perfume, new clothes, and a new phone. When Jordan asked where it came from, she smiled and said, "Gift from cousin. He proud I do good business." That cousin was Darren. By the time Jordan discovered the truth, it was too late. The cafe that never existed, the land he never owned, the woman he thought he knew, all illusions. But at that point, he still didn't know that the biggest betrayal wasn't financial. It was personal. Because the woman who shared his bed was now sharing it with his brother too. And soon, he would walk in on the truth, with his own eyes. From the outside, Jordan's life in Chiang Mai looked perfect. He and Pitya were inseparable, the picture of love. A new SUV, dinners at fancy restaurants, smiling photos online captioned, "Love has no age, only trust red heart." Everyone envied them. Jordan truly believed he'd won the lottery of life. But beneath that perfect image, he wasn't in control anymore. He was being managed, gently, skillfully, completely. It started small. New handbags, gold jewelry, salon visits twice a week. When he teased her, she'd smile. "I must look good for you, yes?" But she wasn't dressing for him, she was building an image for herself. Each gift he gave turned into a test of devotion. A bracelet became a house upgrade. A favor became a debt. Pitya had trained him well, every baht spent proved his love. When his brother Darren decided to stay longer, Jordan was glad. He thought family around meant happiness. But soon, laughter between Pitya and Darren grew different. Too soft. Too private. Then came her suggestion. "Let's do Thai ceremony. No paper, only heart." He agreed. They wore white, candles flickered, monks blessed them. And that night, she whispered, "Now we are one. No secret between us." He didn't know the next morning she opened a joint bank account and started draining his pension. Life turned lavish. Weekend trips, spa retreats, endless shopping. When he worried about money, she kissed him and said, "Don't worry, P. Jordan. You deserve to enjoy." His peaceful villa became a showroom of luxury he never bought. Yet he told himself, she's just nesting. Then came the distance. Late-night messages. Sudden bathroom breaks. Screen turned off whenever he walked by. When confronted, she'd sigh. "You don't trust me anymore. You change." And like always, he apologized. By now, he'd lost touch with his kids. His daughter said he sounded different. When Darren moved into the guest room, Pitya smiled. Family must stay close. But she wasn't keeping the family close. She was pulling them apart. He caught them once on the porch, laughing too quietly, sitting too close. He wanted to believe it meant nothing. But inside, something cracked. Every night she'd still whisper, "Sleep well, my love." And he'd tell himself everything was fine. Because admitting the truth, that the life he built in paradise was a lie, was too painful to bear. But denial doesn't last forever. And soon, that quiet whisper of doubt would turn into a scream. And Jordan Miller, the man who came to the land of smiles seeking peace, had finally found his nightmare. Tea was a warm Sunday morning when the first real crack appeared. Jordan woke early to an empty bed. The sheets were cold. No phone. No purse. No note. At first, he thought she'd gone to the market. She loved cooking fresh. But when hours passed with no answer to his calls, unease crept in. By noon, she came home smiling, flowers in hand. "Where were you?" "Temple." "No signal," she said. Too calm. Too perfect. Something inside him twisted. In the weeks that followed, love turned mechanical. Her laughter felt hollow. Her kisses felt rehearsed. One night, her phone buzzed, a man's name, a red heart emoji. Jordan froze, but didn't look. Because once you look, you can't unsee. That night, when she asked, "You okay, my love?" he smiled weakly. "Yeah. Just tired." But he wasn't tired. He was scared of being right. Then came the warning. At a riverside pub, his friend Brian said quietly, "She's playing you, mate, and maybe your brother too." Jordan laughed, shaky, desperate. No, Darren wouldn't. But deep down, the first crack had become a fracture. He started noticing things. Late-night calls in Thai. Laughter that stopped when he walked in. Her new clothes. His brother's long walks. Once, he found them whispering in the guest room. She smiled quickly. "He asked me about banking." That night, he didn't sleep. Then he checked his bank. Withdrawals he couldn't explain. When he asked, she snapped, "You don't trust me. Maybe you still love your dead wife." He ended up apologizing. Again. But fate has a way of forcing truth. One quiet afternoon, he came home early. Darren's shoes by the door. Pitya's purse on the couch. He opened the bedroom door and froze. There she was. The woman he loved. In his bed. With his brother. For a heartbeat, no one moved. "Jordan," Darren stammered. But he couldn't hear. Only the sound of blood rushing in his ears. He whispered, "My brother, my own blood." Then he turned and walked away, her voice calling after him, broken, fading. That was the moment paradise ended. The love, the trust, the dream, gone. The sun outside felt cold. Jordan never remembered leaving the house that day, only the sound of his own heartbeat echoing in his ears as he wandered through the rain-soaked streets of Chiang Mai. He walked aimlessly until he reached the little cafe where he had first met her, where she once smiled and said, "You have kind eyes." Now that memory felt like a cruel joke. By evening, he went home. The villa was silent. Both of them were waiting, Pitya calm, Darren pale. Jordan's voice barely rose above a whisper. "Tell me why." "It just happened," she said. "We were drunk. I felt alone." "You felt alone. You lied to me. You slept with my brother." Darren tried to speak, but Jordan cut him off. "Was any of it real?" Pitya's eyes turned cold. "You're old, Jordan. You gave me everything, but I need more. Life. Excitement." He stared, stunned. "I gave you everything." She smiled faintly. "Everything wasn't enough." Then softly, almost kindly, "Thailand full of men like you. Lonely. Kind. Easy to love. Easy to lie to." Jordan whispered, "You played me." "No," she said. "You played yourself." He hurled their photo against the wall. Glass shattered. "Both of you out." She walked away barefoot, calm, as if leaving a stage. Darren followed, whispering, "I'm sorry." And Jordan was alone. The villa felt hollow. Her perfume still in the air, her laughter still in the walls. Everything, house, land, accounts, gone. Even his brother. She hadn't just left him. She had emptied him. He tried calling her. No answer. Her cafe, closed. Her number, gone. The bank teller's eyes said it all, every baht transferred weeks before. His pension drained. His life erased. He stopped eating, stopped talking, sat for hours staring at the mountains, wondering how love could turn into ruin. Every "I love you" had been part of a script, perfectly rehearsed, coldly performed. Months later, someone saw them together once, Pitya and Darren, laughing in a mall parking lot before disappearing into the crowd. He never saw them again. That night, Jordan finally understood. Retired in paradise. Ended in hell. Thailand had given him everything he thought he wanted. And taken everything that mattered. In the silence, he whispered, "Love didn't kill me. Trust did." The months after Pitya's betrayal passed like fog, slow, heavy, and without shape. Jordan would wake each morning unsure of what day it was, unsure why he should even bother getting out of bed. The villa that once smelled of jasmine now smelled of damp silence. The laughter was gone. The walls echoed with ghosts. He stopped answering calls. Stopped meeting friends. Stopped caring. Sometimes he'd sit for hours watching the ceiling fan spin, thinking about how stupid he'd been. How easily he'd handed over his heart, his trust, and his life savings, all for the illusion of love. But what haunted him most wasn't the money. It was the mockery. He could still hear her voice. "You played yourself." Those words replayed in his head until they became his personal curse. He finally reached out to the Australian embassy in Bangkok. They were kind, but helpless. The property, the accounts, everything had been in her name. There was no proof of fraud, only betrayal. He visited the Thai police, but they shrugged. "She not steal. You give." And that was the truth that cut the deepest. He did give. Every baht, every password, every piece of trust. He hadn't been robbed. He'd been willingly emptied. The following weeks were filled with paperwork and humiliation. He sold what little he still owned, the SUV, the furniture, the electronics, to pay the visa fines and the rent he hadn't realized was overdue. Because even the villa wasn't his, it had been registered under her cousin's name. He considered going back to Australia, but the thought of facing his children, explaining what had happened, was unbearable. He imagined their faces, disappointment, pity, disgust. He couldn't stand the idea of being that old fool who fell for a Thai scammer. So he stayed. He moved into a small apartment near the old city walls, 1 room, a bed, a fan, and a view of nothing. 4 months, he didn't speak to anyone. He just walked the streets of Chiang Mai alone, past the same markets, the same temples, the same cafe where it had all begun. Only now, every smile from a stranger felt suspicious. Every "hello, sir" sounded like a trap. He'd once believed Thailand was heaven. Now it looked like purgatory. It took nearly a year before he started rebuilding. It began with small things. Morning walks. Coffee without tears. Joining a local support group for scammed expats, men who had been through the same story, just with different names. There were dozens of them. An engineer from the UK, a veteran from the US, a retired banker from Germany. All of them broken in the same way, betrayed by love, blinded by kindness. Listening to their stories, Jordan realized something that both hurt and healed him. He wasn't alone. Each man spoke the same line in different accents. "She made me feel alive again." And in those words, Jordan finally found understanding. Because that was what Pitya had really stolen. Not money, not pride, but meaning. With time, the pain dulled. He started teaching English part-time, not for money, but for purpose. He cut his hair short, stopped drinking, and began writing his story, not for revenge, but for warning. And sometimes, when the night air turned cool and the city grew quiet, he'd sit on his balcony and whisper to himself, "You survived." He wasn't the same man who'd come to Thailand chasing paradise. He was something harder now. Colder, but clearer. Because he'd finally understood the truth. You can't build love on loneliness. And not every smile in paradise means kindness. But even then, some nights he'd wake up to the faint smell of jasmine in the air, and for a split second, just one, he'd almost believe she was still there. Then the memory would return, sharp as glass, and he'd whisper the words that had become his mantra. Trust once. Pay forever. They say Thailand is the land of smiles. But for Jordan, that smile came with a knife behind it. He came here looking for peace. He found love, trust, and laughter, and lost every piece of himself along the way. And maybe that's what makes this story hurt the most. Because it wasn't greed that destroyed him, it was hope. Short pause, gentle music enters. So, friends, if you've ever dreamed of starting over in Thailand, or if you're already here chasing love under these golden skies, remember Jordan's story. Love can heal you, but the wrong love can hollow you out until there's nothing left. Don't let that be your story. Before you leave, backhand index pointing right, hit like if this story opened your eyes. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe if you believe the truth deserves to be heard. And share this video with anyone planning to move to Thailand, because sometimes the best gift you can give is a warning. This was Expat Stories Thailand. Real stories. Real scars. Real warnings. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, not every smile in paradise means peace.